News.
And stay with us. The news at 5 o'clock starts right now.
CBS 46 News at 5 starts now.
We begin with a developing story, an unusual case of double jeopardy involving an accused killer. Gary Otis is set to go free without facing a trial after a state Supreme Court ruling. Now the family of the elderly woman he's accused of murdering has very strong words.
He's a murderer. He could get out. As soon as he hits ground, kill somebody else. What's to stop him?
Hello, everyone. It is a case that stretches back nearly 3 years. I'm Sharon Reed.
And I'm Tracy Hutchins. We want to get right out to Will Frampton. He is at the Fulton County Jail. And, Will, how much longer until Otis gets out?
Tracy and Sharon, some courtroom paperwork has to be filed first. The family of the victim has been told that will likely take about 2 weeks to process that paperwork. And then after that, there's a little more that can be done to prevent Gary Otis from walking out of here.
The law is the law.
Longtime lawyer and law professor Michael Mears says it may seem astonishing and impossible to believe, but the case of Gary Otis is clear-cut, and double jeopardy is the reason why.
Double jeopardy is a constitutional right which says you cannot be placed into jeopardy for the same offense more than once. The state gets one shot at you.
I feel like a person got away with murder.
Jan Jacobs can't decide whether she's more heartbroken, upset, or in disbelief. Gary Otis is accused of killing Jacobs' mother, 75-year-old Mary Oliver. It happened while she lay sleeping in this senior living center in Southwest Atlanta, June 17, 2013. When police found and arrested Otis, they said he was holding a knife and was covered in blood.
He killed my mom, and I'll never know why.
That's because almost as soon as his trial started, a mistrial was declared. The defense wanted to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but without calling an expert witness. The prosecution objected. Fulton County Judge Ural Glanville ultimately called a mistrial, but the jury had already been picked. A critical technical mistake in favor of Gary Otis.
At that point, he had been placed in jeopardy. Without the defendant causing it, there was no basis for a mistrial.
The state Supreme Court heard the case, ruled in favor of Otis, and today upheld that ruling.
I think the prosecution's office bears a great deal of responsibility in this case because they should have done more to try to convince the judge that the judge did not have the authority to grant or to declare a mistrial.
And just about an hour ago, we did hear from Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard. He said, quote, "This is a sad day for the Oliver family. It is difficult to accept the release of this defendant who brutally stabbed an unarmed senior citizen simply because of a technical error committed by a judge who the court admits was seeking a fair trial. We must now work to change the laws that caused this terrible result so such a tragedy will not happen to another family." Live at the Fulton County Jail, I'm Will Frampton, CBS 46 News.
Well, thank you. Now to another developing story. A deadly house fire. 2 women and 4 men dead after the Northwest Atlanta home went up in flames. That home was identified as a boarding house, but now that's not the case. That fire broke out early this morning. It happened at a home in the 1400 block of Andrews Street, and that's where Christian De La Rosa joins us live. And Christian, have investigators figured out what sparked this deadly fire?
No, they have not, or at least not yet, and the medical examiner has yet to release the cause of death, which is why loved ones are growing suspicious and raising questions.
I don't have him no more. He's not here with me no more. He's not here with no more. He gone, he died, he left me.
Michelle Ferguson says Tony Jones was her partner of 4 years. She says he stayed here last night where his mechanic and 4 others lived. They all died in the fire.
And I begged him not to come here.
Fire investigators tell CBS 46 the flames started in the back of the house, but it was the front of the home that saw most of the damage.
It was no smoke detected.
Firefighters have yet to find the cause of the fire. Arson investigators were on scene today. I'm back out here live. The fire broke early this morning, and there are still portions of the home that are still smoldering. You can tell just how severe this fire was and how it spread across the entire home. Fire investigators tell me they won't know the exact cause of the fire for at least another few days. We're live in Northwest Atlanta. I'm Christian De La Rosa, CBS 46 News.
Christian, thank you. Now to a story that hits home for any parent. A woman's car stolen with her baby inside. It's a situation that could have ended badly, but fortunately it didn't. That child was found safe. Now authorities are looking for the thief who made that bold move. Dante Renzulli joins us live with the details. Dante?
Well, Tracy, it's a great time to remind everyone just what can happen if you leave your keys in your car. All it takes is a second for someone to jump behind the wheel. Tense moments for an Atlanta mother who thought she might have seen her one-year-old child for the last time. She was powerless to stop a car thief from driving off in a red PT Cruiser with her baby strapped in the back seat. It all started just a few blocks away at the Burger King on North Avenue. Witnesses say the mother stopped in for a moment to say hello to her fiancé who works there. She told police she left her baby in the car with the keys in the ignition. But immediately after she walked inside, witnesses say someone jumped behind the wheel and took off. That's when the woman ran back to the driver's side door, screaming for the man to stop while trying to wrestle him out of the driver's seat. According to police, the woman was thrown to the ground and hit her head on the pavement as the car thief sped off. One man coming to visit his mother on this block as police were investigating says she's noticed a recent increase in car thefts.
It's definitely happened a lot more in this area over the past 2 years. She's getting ready to move actually because of it.
In the end, this mother's fear was short-lived because with the help of the company she's leasing her car from, police used satellite information to find the car parked 2 streets over on Durant Place. The baby was still inside and unhurt, but the car thief was long gone. And that car thief was able to manage to escape somewhere into this neighborhood just minutes before police got here. And that's why Atlanta police want to hear from you if you know anything about this. Reporting live from Midtown, I'm Dante Renzulli, CBS 46 News.
New at 5, we now know which Atlanta Falcons coach asked an NFL prospect a controversial question about his sexuality. And that coach has now apologized. The sports director, Fred Khalil's here with more on today's new developments. Freddie?
But Sharon, the Falcons were so embarrassed by this, head coach Dan Quinn brought in a counselor to speak with his coaching staff about, quote, social responsibility. We now know that Mark Quinn Manuel, the team's secondary coach, asked Ohio State's Eli Apple that question. Here's Apple in his own words describing what was asked.
Falcons coach, one of the coaches was like, so do you like men? And it was like the first thing he asked me.
Really?
It was weird, and I was just like, no. He's like, well, if you're going to come to Atlanta, you just got to know that, sometimes that's how it is out here or whatever. You got to get used to it. And I guess he was joking.
Here's part of the statement from Manuel. I take full responsibility for the inappropriate question I asked at the Combine. It was wrong, and I apologize to Eli Apple, Mr. Blank, the entire Falcons organization, my family, and our Falcons fans for my insensitivity. I understand it was inappropriate and the offense that people have taken to it. Moving forward, I'll become better by going through all of this. Manuel was one of Dan Quinn's first hires when he took over as the head coach last year. Quinn reiterated today he felt the question was inappropriate. In his statement, he simply said, quote, we will learn from this. Tracy?
All right, Fred, thank you. Now at 5, a story that will affect hundreds of parents and students in the Atlanta public school system. In about an hour and a half, the board will vote on the district's drastic plan to turn around some of the lowest performing schools in the city. Adam Harding joins us live with another look at that plan before tonight's major vote. Adam?
It is not only major, it is controversial. It had been quiet outside of the school headquarters for much of the afternoon, but in the last 5 minutes we saw a handful of parents start to file into the auditorium ahead of the 6 o'clock meeting. The turnaround plan at stake here is essentially an overhaul of several schools considered to be struggling, but even that is being met with criticism, just like the superintendent's plan that is up for a vote at around 6 o'clock tonight. I have reached out to the board chairman for a comment to get a sense on how tonight will go. I'm told that the board right now is in a meeting. They will be in a meeting until tonight's vote. Let's break this down for you because tonight's vote could have a huge impact on thousands of students and parents. The superintendent is looking to close a handful of what they call underperforming elementary schools by merging them with nearby schools. On top of that, outside agencies considered by many to be similar to a charter school could come in and take over. Essentially, the argument is they can better serve the students than the current administrators can. The district says there are 26 schools that could run the risk of a potential state takeover. This is a way to possibly avoid that. Only 3 clusters, though, are being affected: Carver, Douglas, and Washington. And here's where things start to get a little murky. Hundreds of teachers, we're told, would have to reapply for their job, and many parents are not happy. Their children would be moving schools. The superintendent held a half dozen or so public community meetings. Parents and teachers sounded off on these proposals. Keep in mind, an overhaul of a this size in a district of this size is simply unheard of. Again, we've reached out to the board for comment ahead of tonight's 6 o'clock meeting. They're in a meeting behind us right now. Parents are just now starting to file into the auditorium behind us. We, of course, will be here throughout the night as the board considers the vote at around 6 o'clock tonight to discuss what comes next for thousands of students and parents. For now, we're live in Atlanta. I'm Adam Harding, CBS 46 News.
Happening tomorrow, the newly created city of Tucker will have its inaugural swearing-in ceremony. The mayor, along with newly elected city officials, will all be sworn in. It'll happen tomorrow at 7 p.m. inside the Tucker High School auditorium. It is open to the public.
Presidential candidates kick off another busy week on the campaign trail. Next, a look at how they are all in a fight to win Michigan.
And former First Lady Nancy Reagan is being mourned throughout the political world. Tonight, we hear from President Obama on his encounter with the former First Lady.
Things just got a little worse for what some are calling America's worst neighborhood. I'm CBS 46's Adam Murphy. We'll tell you what's being done to clean up all of this mess coming up.
And recall alert. We have 2 important recalls to tell you about before you fix your child's snap today.
And we're not quite yet to the apex of this week's warmth. I'll track when that occurs and when the next threat to get wet arrives on deck in just a few short minutes from now.
You're watching CBS 46 News. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter.